Now before I get into any of the specifics behind this weapon, I'm sure a few of you are wondering what a selfish weapon even is. Like, how can a weapon be selfish? It doesn't make any sense. Well, at least to me, a selfish weapon is a weapon that prioritizes the user significantly more than your teammates, whether that be from the playstyle it gives or any rewards it gives. An example of a selfish weapon could be the Diamondback. The crits it gives per backstab or sap machine prioritizes you over the team through damage alone. To be fair, this definition of a selfish weapon has its flaws. Like, what does prioritize and significantly mean here? Does flanking count as being selfish? And would medic be a selfless class? It's not perfect, but all I want to do is set a line for what I think is selfish or not. So coming to Pyro then, what do I think is a selfish weapon for Pyro? You've probably guessed it from the thumbnail alone, but I think the backburner is Pyro's most selfish weapon. It has to do with the playstyle it encourages Pyros to take, the utility it sacrifices, and the upsides it takes, being air blast and crits respectively. Most, if not all, of Pyro's utility comes from his air blast, which reflects projectiles. This helps loads of classes, like engineer, sniper, medics, and even heavies from danger. But the backburner increases the costs of air blast from 20 all the way to 50, which goes from 10 air blasts to only 4. Now this is a big problem for Pyro, because he can't nearly be as useful as his team in a supporting sense, which could make a big difference in a game. All this leaves for Pyro is to WM1 with the thing, which isn't a team play if you ask me. But it doesn't end there either, as the main upside the backburner provides Pyro is the ability to crit enemy players' backs. It's an odd mechanic, but it's certainly interesting. This upside forces the Pyro into a heavy flanking position, where he needs to be behind the enemy to do substantial damage. The reason I say this is rather selfish though, is because the Pyro has to be behind the enemy players to do anything of note. Unlike Scout, and yes, even Spy, Pyro doesn't have much of a chance in a face-to-face fight, even against soldiers or demomen, as he can't air blast reliably. You might be thinking, what about the shotguns? Just shoot him! But this creates an issue where the Pyro can't get behind anymore without the thermal thruster or detonator to help, both of which aren't exactly offensive tools. Even with those two equipped, the Pyro still needs a bit of team support to make enough of a noise to get in behind safely, such as destroying sentries and distracting snipers. This goes back to my definition of a selfish weapon, where we can see the Pyro being prioritized much more than his teammates through these aggressive pushes, which arguably benefit him more than his team. Now, I gotta address the elephant in the room here, as I'm sure some of you have been screaming at your computer for however many minutes it's been. The Flog is very similar in the backburner in its upsides and downsides. They both sacrifice air blast for critical damage with their flames. But I would argue the Flog is less selfish than the backburner, as its penalties and benefits are far more consistent. Firstly, the benefit, the critical hits. Oomph is just better than relying on the backburner's mechanic, as it gives you more control over what you're hitting, when, along with telling your teammates through the taunt. You know how some lesser skilled spies will complain about how that totally should have been a backstab? Now that's one swing, but with the backburner, you can do up to like 20 ticks of fire damage and none of them will be critical because of TF2's weird back mechanics. Like, there are loads of instances where it looks like I should have gotten the crits, but for whatever reason I didn't. This makes the weapon far more inconsistent than the Flog, where the guaranteed crits after the taunt not only make the aggressive push by your team more reliable and worthy, but it makes the weapon less annoying for you and your team. The air blast penalty on the other hand is a bit more complicated. You'd think that the Flog would be more selfish because having no air blast is worse than only having 4. First off, in a practical sense, you only have 3 air blasts with the backburner if you include shooting someone normally. Secondly, unlike the Flog, you still have the option to air blast. It's not a flat restriction like having no air blast at all. It's up to you to decide whether or not you should deflect that rocket, or push back that Uber combo, or to extinguish that poor sniper. But you can't air blast effectively with this thing, as it drains so much ammo. Ammo you need to flank and ambush effectively. Taking up ammo packs is also a selfish thing, as guess who needs those ammo packs? Engineers! The same engineer you're not deflecting rockets and pipes from, and saving his buildings from spies and scouts. Reducing the number of air blasts is worse than having no air blast, as with the Flog it's still excusable to not help buildings and burning players, but there's much less of an excuse not to do the same with the backburner. Now, I'm not calling you a bad person for using the backburner, I don't want to give that idea away. That stereotype belongs to the Scorch Shot. But I want to address how difficult and uncomfortable this weapon is to use compared to other Pyro primaries. Its downsides are really bad for Pyro, as Air Blast is probably his best tool in his kit, and the upside is simply just outperformed by the Phlogistinator. Which is funny because, well, they both suck. Even with a pocket medic by your side, the backburner's unpredictable nature makes it harder to abuse. But regardless of how bad it is, it's still probably the most selfish weapon Pyro has in his kit, at least for you and your team. It's also why this thing is like never used in competitive that much, but it is used in MVM, so if that's your thing, then I guess you could use it there. But it's not for me, so I won't talk about it. But that's enough on me. I'm Sammy, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video.